Hi, once again, it's Paul Carman with yet another tutorial on the Korg PA series here. And this little video is a culmination of 2 or 3 of the things that we've talked about in some of the earlier videos. Let's crack on and I'll explain what we're doing as we go along. The first thing I've done to create this setup is to set up my 4 sounds. I'm going to be using all 3 upper sections and the lower section. In upper 1, I've used a voice called Pan Flute 1 DNC. Now you'll actually find that in the Legacy tab, and it's in the woodwind section. All the other voices are found in the standard factory sounds. Upper 2, I've put classic harp, which incidentally you'll find in the strings section. We've got analog synth in upper 3, and I've got a dark pad on the lower. And the next thing I set about doing was creating 2 zones for these 3 upper voices. The Pan Flute 1, which is going to be used as my main melody voice, I've played from the split point up to this B here, and the other voices will work above there. So we've got classic harp and analog synth both working at the top end of the keyboard. You notice the very long release that we've got on those top sounds there, because they're for my fill-in notes. Now again, we covered release in an earlier video, but just to show you, if I choose that analog synth and I go to track controls, and if you remember, it's the sound edit tab, and I've added plus 50 in terms of release and sustain, because I need these notes to linger on whilst I'm going back to the main melody further down the keyboard. So we set up Pan Flute to work up to the B there. The other 2 voices we set up a zone. You can see how we do that in one of the earlier videos, but once again, if I go to menu, the zoning, or the setting the range of the keys, is in the keyboard ensemble section there. And if you remember upper 1 there, we've got that from C1 as far as B5, which is that B there. The other 2 voices, upper 2, upper 3, I've set from the next note up, which is the C, so they go from C6 right up to the top. So there's 2 things. There's the release that we covered before, and setting up the ranges or the splits. So we'll go back there. So we've got our 4 sounds. I've now got some nice effects. That was the next thing I wanted to do, and I'm just going to touch very briefly here. I'm going to go into this at more depth in some other little videos for you, but to set up the effects for these right hand voices, if you go into menu, and the first port of call needs to be Master Effects. Now at the bottom you've got 2 tabs, FXA, FXB. It's FXB that we're looking at that control these right hand voices. And we can put 2 effects on at the same time. You can switch effects off using the on-off toggles at the side there. But in this case I'm using both effects. In FX1, I'm using a reverb called Overb. That's one of the latest reverbs. Really nice, smooth reverb. If you do want to make a selection, you just tap in the area where it says the name of the effect, and at the top you've got the pull down menu, and you've got the slider at the bottom, so you can run through literally loads and loads of different effects there. But I've chosen Overb. We'll come back out of that. The effect that I've put into FX2, my second effect, is a delay. DEL stands for delay. And delay is sort of, if I can put it in layman's terms, it's the note bouncing away into the distance. So we've got a stereo BPM, that stands for beats per minute, auto. Now, the BPM auto means that the tempo of the note bouncing off into the distance, if you like, is linked to the tempo of the rhythm, so it's always going to sound right. And then it's a pan delay. Well, delay is the effect of the note disappearing off into the distance. Pan just means it's going from left to right, same as you can pan sounds. So to hear the effect of that delay there, I'm just going to temporarily switch off the reverb and just play you a note on the pan flute. Have a listen to what happens when I've released the note. Hopefully you can hear that sound bouncing off into the distance. And just to prove that it is linked to the tempo, I'm on tempo 60 at the minute. Let me sort of almost double that tempo and play the same note. You can hear the effect is now much quicker. So it is definitely linked to the tempo there. So we'll come back out of that. It's not enough just to set the master effects. We now need to go into menu and we go to our mixer and tuning tab. And if we look at the tabs along the bottom, the one we need to look at is FX Send. This means how much of those master effects do we put on each individual sound. So again, the columns will represent the different sounds, upper 1, upper 2, upper 3 and lower. The rows here, we've got the row for master 1, which was our overb, and master 2, which was our beats per minute delay at the bottom. And you can set the value or the amount of each of those two effects that go onto each of the voices. You'll see that I've almost maxed out the delay on the 3 upper voices because I really want to use that effect. I've put quite a lot of reverb as well. The only one I haven't set anything up for is on the lower. I don't need that delay, it's not needed, so I've actually set it to 0. The style I'm going to use is called Angel Voice FS Freestyle. Freestyle just means you're not really governed by having a drum track go. They're lovely ethereal orchestral type backings, and that was one of the new styles on the version 3 software. So that's in a nutshell how I've put this together. Let me just take a break to reposition the camera, and then I'm just going to play you something played in a really simple way, not to show anything to do with the playing, it's to show you the effect that we've now set up.